when you're exploring spiritual awakening, it's very common, and you'll almost certainly come across methods of inquiry or self-inquiry practice. These seem to be used a lot online, in books. Yeah, it's very common at the moment for people to ask questions about the nature of self in order to wake up. So you'll hear questions being used like, who am I? Or where am I? What is this? What is my true nature? What is the experience before thought, before context? Now, these methods of inquiry, they're really powerful and they're really useful, but it's important to notice that they're not the only methods that we can use. It feels to me like maybe like a broader, stronger foundation of practice is required if we want to have more of a life of freedom and peace and ease. I think what can happen with these inquiry practices is they kind of slice. They're like a slicing tool. They slice away at the mechanism of mind that projects a self. But actually, that self-referential thought construct, it's been looking after us for quite a long time. So if we start taking a sword to it, start slicing it up, it can be a little bit problematic. It can be disturbing sometimes once we cut through all of the things we used to rely upon, all of the ways of thinking about the world and seeing the world that we used to rely upon. When we've taken those apart at the root, that can be difficult to navigate. So I guess I would encourage exploring other practices that can act as more of like a foundation, and that can support and nurture a sense of well-being and ease. So there's two that I would definitely recommend. So the first is reflection practice. So reflecting on the nature of experience without trying to ask really pokey questions about it. So typically this was used by the Buddha a lot and this is, you would kind of call this Vipassana practice. Now Vipassana nowadays has got maybe a different flavour to it because of the Goenka tradition, but really Vipassana means insight, and insight would come about by reflecting on the nature of experience and noticing where we are maybe mired in delusion, where our thoughts and our perceptions don't match up with the nature of experience. So one of the most common, probably the most useful ways to do this is by observing the impermanent nature of conditions. So by conditions, it's like anything really, anything that comes and goes. So it could be a thought, a feeling, a sound, a taste, a little quiver in the body, whatever it is. By noticing the impermanent nature of conditions, we can reflect, conditions are this way. These conditions arise and these conditions cease. So we're really kind of attuning ourselves to the nature of conditioned phenomena through reflection. No tough questions, no hard, proddy exploration, just an opening to the way things are. It's like, look, these conditions come and these conditions go. These words seem to arise in experience and these words pass away, leaving nothing remaining. So we can reflect on the nature of experience. I'd say this is really powerful because we can do this all the time, and it doesn't put too much pressure on us and on the nervous system. It doesn't put too much pressure on the fearful, anxiety-ridden parts of us that want to fight back against questions like, who am I? The other practice that I would definitely recommend to support us on our path, and I would say everybody on the path will get to a stage where they realize they kind of need something like this. And this is the cultivation of loving kindness or kindly acceptance. You can call it whatever you will, but being able to be with the moment with acceptance and a kind attitude towards the moment, without rejecting or pushing anything or any part of us away, and holding it with understanding, acknowledgement and acceptance. So typically in Buddhism, this is called the Metta Bhavana suite of practices. So the cultivation of metta, which is unconditional loving kindness. Now, I'm not going to go into loads of different Metta Bhavana techniques and practices, but what I will say, and I see this again and again in other people, and I've felt it myself, is that there's often a resistance to do these kind of practices because it's really a lot safer to stay in the mindscape of imagining not even imagining, kind of working with the non-dual inquiry side of things than it is to sink into the felt experience of the moment, the emotional, energetic experience of being alive. And this is what metta practices involve, is like turning towards those experiences, those felt experiences, with kindness and love and acceptance. But the benefits of doing this are phenomenal, really. It gives us a foundation of love and acceptance which can meet each moment. So when we're maybe doing more difficult inquiry practices and we're meeting very challenging experiences in the body, if we have a foundation of loving acceptance, we can feel held, we can feel a sense of safety, we can feel connection with each other and with the world. So you don't need to do anything, but it's great to remember that inquiry practices, these self-inquiry practices, they're not the only ones that will help us to wake up. Just as powerful and just as beneficial for our awakening journey are practices of reflection and cultivating loving kindness.